and I am extremely humbled and honored to be welcoming all of you to today's program dedicated to our veterans. Veterans Day, yes. Veterans Day, which is observed annually every year on November 11th, is a day of celebration and recognition. And it is important for us to remember the history in which this day was originated. So here's a little history lesson in case you didn't know it. November 11th commemorates the end of World War I, previously known as Armistice Day, in which we recognize and honor those who we lost in World War I. In 1946, World War II veteran Raymond Weeks pointed out that all veterans, living and dead, should be honored and fought to turn Armistice Day to Veterans Day in the United States. November 11th, 1954, marks the first recognized Veterans Day. Veterans Day marks the time in which we acknowledge, mourn, celebrate, and give gratitude to all the living and dead, the past, present, and future troops who sacrificed themselves for our freedom. Please join me in welcoming the Mars County Sheriff's Office Color Guard for the presentation of the colors and Vietnam veteran U.S. Army trustee Paula Citra to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
Everybody rise, please. The Pledge of Allegiance, and remain standing for a moment of silence, silent prayer for our armed forces, both domestic, foreign, and especially those in harm's way, for our nation's veterans who wished for peace and not war because they have experienced the hell of war, and finally for our military veterans whose wounds are not visible but are suffering the scars of the past wars. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stripes and bright stars.
Thank you, Professor Mammon and the CCM Chamber Choir, for sharing that inspirational rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. Now, please join me in welcoming Dr. Iacono, President of County College of Morris, who will share his thoughts about this remarkable day of tribute.
Good morning. All right. If you'll join me in another round of applause for Professor Mammon and Professor Bellotti and our amazing students. Thank you. What a benefit both ways that we get to hear your wonderful talent and sharing and honoring our veterans today, and also students, for you to be able to have an opportunity to hear from some of our veterans and learn from them today as well. So it's good when these two worlds come together very, very neatly. One would certainly not exist without the other. So let me start on that note with a great appreciation to our veterans who are here today and our veterans throughout our communities, throughout this great state, and throughout our nation as well. I've got some lights. I'm a little bit blinded, but we do have some individuals I want to take a moment to introduce before I make remarks of appreciation for our veterans. But we have a number of VIPs. I won't hit all of them, but I do want to introduce. We have with us our several members from government we have, and you'll be hearing from our Deputy Director, Commissioner Christine Myers, who is here. She's also the CCM liaison to the Morris County Commissioners. We're honored to have her regular support, and again, you'll be hearing from her. So, Commissioner Myers, thank you for being here. We also have Commissioner Stephen Shaw, a longtime CCM supporter, and at one time one of our liaisons, but still all in, and a great support, and they are invaluable to how they've helped move this college forward and students to the opportunities that you receive every day in facilities like this and others that are forthcoming. There are many, many ways that our commissioners support us and make your education not only highly affordable, highly accessible, but provide the infrastructure for you to be highly successful and go on and live out your dreams as well. And commissioners, we never lose sight of that, and we appreciate the continued substantial support that you offer to our college. We do have from Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill's office, we have Navy veteran Willie Toba, who is here with us and is a regular on our campus working with our Veterans Community Committee as well. Willie, welcome. We appreciate your being here. And we do have newly appointed, will be sworn in later at toward the end of this month. We have a new CCM trustee and former Randolph councilman and a longtime supporter of County College of Morris, was very, very supportive and visible with us when we hosted the Moving Vietnam Memorial Wall, and that's Mr. Jim Loveys. Jim, welcome, and we look forward to swearing you in officially. And also with us from our college's Board of Trustees is Trustee Laura Gabrielson, who is with us, and we appreciate your attendance today as well. Thank you. You're going to hear from a number of individuals today, and some of those they will introduce themselves and so forth, but I do want to welcome, he's been here before, we're always happy to have him back, and we've been exploring ways to strengthen our partnership between the college and the Picatinny Arsenal, but Lieutenant Commander Alexander Burgos, welcome back. We're always happy to have you and members of your team. Gentlemen, thank you for being here, and thank you for your service as well. What the college is able to do is always amplified through partnerships, and yours is one of the most important, valuable ones that we could possibly have. So here we are. Yet again, it is Veterans Day, and it's a day that we set aside, but hopefully every day in your hearts you are thinking about our veterans. Your gratitude to them is never ending, because it's not about one day. It's about how we're able to live every day, and how those who came before us are able to live and those who will come after us are able to live. It would not be even remotely what we enjoy every day without our armed forces. And today is that day that we specifically acknowledge and remember our veterans, those who are with us today and those who gave their lives so that we could live as we're able to live today and continue to be that beacon of hope for all of the world to see and to rely upon. Students, I hope that you do take time each and every day to reflect upon that, to remember that, and to honor the men and women who are active duty and also, as we are focused on today, who are veterans of our armed forces. This nation exists because of them. This nation was born from them. This nation continues to exist. And when we say our best days in the United States of America are still ahead of us, it is reliant on our armed forces and the men and women who serve in them. When we look across the world and the challenges that exist, and they are extraordinary today, the world looks to the United States for support, the United States for salvation, the United States as that beacon to lead not only this nation forward, but all nations forward. The impact of our veterans and our servicemen and women is inestimable. You know, we've been doing a lot at our college since the moving wall came here. We were honored that Senator Bucco and a number of individuals from various posts throughout Morris County came forward. We usually have Bill Menzel, I can't see the lights on, and Emerson Crooks and Dave Cathcart and some others sat us down and said, you know, we would like to bring this to Morris County and we need space. And Senator Bucco said, CCM would support you on that. And we were honored to support our veterans in that way. And out of that became an even stronger relationship, being out there every day, talking with them, listening to our veterans. They have taught us so much. But here's one thing I want to share that they say to us frequently, which is really unnecessary. And students in particular, I want you to lock in on this. They say thank you all the time for whatever it is that we're doing for them. And you're going to hear about a big commitment that we are making to move forward with a little bit later in today's program. But I want you to know there is nothing we could ever do for our veterans that would even scratch the surface by comparison of what they have done for all of us. So it is always an honor to serve you. It's an honor to recognize you. It is an honor to have you in our presence every opportunity we have. You never need to thank us. The debt of gratitude we have could never possibly be repaid. You have made our nation what it is. You make our community stronger. And as the president of this school, I will tell you, you have made our college infinitely stronger and more valuable than it could otherwise ever be. For that, we are truly and deeply grateful. Thank you. I hope, because we're a teaching institution, students and others will take a few moments to talk to our veterans and our active service men who are here today and hear about their experiences. There's a reception after this. I hope you'll come over and have a chance to listen to them and learn from them. And they are here regularly with a variety of events on campus. Students, those events are to honor them. They're also to teach you. They're also to help forge that community where we can all recognize why we are who we are. So never miss those opportunities, all right? I'm going to pass the torch on because we've got some important speakers that you're going to hear from. It really is my great honor to introduce our next speaker, and that is the Honorable Christine Myers. Commissioner Myers.
My future's so bright, I guess, because it's very filled with light. So I'll try not to squint. But, you know, Commissioner Shaw and I have the opportunity to give talks multiple times a week on various things, and sometimes they are better or more interesting, more compelling. But today, Veterans Day tomorrow, is important for all of us. As a county commissioner of a county established since 1738, the reality of war and military strength is part of our fabric. And not just because we sent men overseas or that we lived through the Revolutionary War here and started our first nonprofit in 1813 in response to the War of 1812. It's because we suffered too in the making of our country. Just everywhere you look, people sacrificed for our freedom to establish a democracy, a republic, for which we are privileged to stand. And I, myself, my father was spent 4 years off an island in Japan in World War II after enduring the Depression. So I grew up not with war, but with a mentality of thankfulness, of not taking things for granted, and understanding that life is hard. But through that hardness, you get virtue. And our service men and women understand that in spades because they learn it while being and serving our country, whether it's self-sacrifice, perseverance, endurance, thankfulness, gratitude, obedience. Understanding that things don't come easy, but those are the best things that we can achieve. That's why having you here, having the 125 veteran students that are in the college are important, and I wish they would wear their uniforms. When I had an opportunity to work in DC and go to school in Virginia, the military were ever present. So my mind always, frequently throughout the day landed on a person in a military uniform, and I was able to reflect on their sacrifice so I could live freely. So I could complain about the fact that Amazon didn't deliver whatever it was that I ordered last night. It wasn't here by 8. It put things into perspective. Their service allows us to put our lives into proper perspective. It is because of them each and every day that they sacrifice for us. And God forbid it come on our shores again, but thankfully our service people will teach us how to rise to the occasion, to be men and women who are willing to sacrifice our lives for others, for a country and a people yet to be born. And so I asked the students here today a little test or education. Go online and look up what was the motivation for our national anthem. It will surprise you to learn of the sacrifice that particular, our national anthem, was built around. And to our veterans and to our service people, there is not enough gratitude that we can express to you each and every day, and it is why I'm so happy that the county, our county, has doubled the size of our Veteran Center, that we are working with Dr. Iacono and CCM to expand our centers, not just for our veterans, but for their families who suffer too, who sacrifice as much as they do, if not more. And I just want to thank all of you tremendously for your service. And please be the beacon of light and virtue that we need to see in this country today to help us put things in perspective each and every moment of our lives, to be grateful for what God has given us and what we enjoy here in Morris County. And God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you for those beautiful words of reflection, Deputy Director Myers. For our next presentation, we are honored to have with us Flotilla Commander George A. Roth, United States Coast Guard Auxiliary.
Morning. So I want to thank the community college for inviting us to be here today, and so that we can honor veterans and also honor the program and direction that the community college is taking in the way of supporting veterans, while they're after their active duty or during their times in the service. A lot of education, certainly, as you all as students know, is certainly very important to your future, and appreciate it with what the county college is doing. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Coast Guard today. A lot of folks don't really have a good sense of what the Coast Guard was or is, so I'm going to cover a bit of that today. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview, talk a little bit about some missions, and then the resources that the Coast Guard uses to make things happen. So let me go back one here, a little too fast. So the Coast Guard was formed in 1790 by Alexander Hamilton. It is the first military service that was formed when the country was established. So we've been around for a long, long time. Revenue Marines started it in 1790. It evolved into the Revenue Cutter Service in 1863, and then was joined with the Life Saving Service, which had been formed back in 1848 to create what we now know, or at least call, the Coast Guard. Further out, the Lighthouse Service and the Steamboat Inspection Service was merged into the Coast Guard to create the larger unit and the focus that the Coast Guard has had for its entirety. A little bit of history as far as the reporting structure. 1790 to 1967, the Coast Guard was part of the Department of Treasury. In 1967, when I joined the Coast Guard, it was transferred into the Department of Transportation, and more recently, 2003 forward, it's been now part of the Department of Homeland Security. Coast Guard covers a large, large area. We're talking about 95,000 miles of continuous coastline, a large portion of it in the Pacific, but certainly on the east and west coast of the United States itself. Lots of seaports and terminals and the like that are under the jurisdiction and the responsibility of the Coast Guard. Most of the common things the folks know about the Coast Guard is its safety, mission, maritime security, and stewardship. But I'm going to go into a little bit deeper dive here in a moment. Coast Guard obviously is a 365-day organization, operates every day. 60 multilateral agreements with other countries are enforced by the Coast Guard, and a small percentage of the budget of the Coast Guard actually comes from defense funding. A large portion of it comes, again, because of our Homeland Security connection. So now these days, there's 11 missions that are part of the Coast Guard. Briefly going to touch on each of them. So port, waterways, and coastal security. This is a fairly common thing that most folks recall or believe the Coast Guard does. It's, again, escorting vessels and conducting patrols and inspections on small boats and large boats, and escorting also Navy ballistic missiles, missile ships and submarines. One portion that isn't mentioned here is the Coast Guard is also responsible for protecting the president. When the president does travel, the Coast Guard is involved with making sure that it's a safe trip. Drug interdiction is another big piece of the Coast Guard's activity these days. In 2022, we prevented a significant amount of cocaine and marijuana from coming into the country and detained a substantial number of smugglers as part of that effort. Migrant interdiction is another task the Coast Guard pursues. 3,535 undocumented migrants were stopped in 2022 by the Coast Guard. Defense readiness. So the Coast Guard still has a component which is defense related. This lists what was done in 2022 with a lot of shoreside hours and in the South, and responded to a lot of air defense missions, and forcing UN sanctions is all part of the Coast Guard's mission. Other enforcement activities, violations of marine safety laws, detecting illegal incursions of foreign vessels trying to take our fish, boarding vessels to suppress illegal activity. Point at the bottom, federal law prohibits using the military for law enforcement. They're not allowed to do law enforcement activities. The Coast Guard is the exception from that. So on every Navy ship that's out stopping illegal immigrants or doing drug interdiction, the Coast Guard is on that vessel because they're allowed to board. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force are not allowed to do those kinds of things. Marine safety. So we inspect lots of containers, lots of ships, commercial vessels, large and small. We investigate accidents. A lot of port control examinations, so going to see, make sure that ports are safe, or that vessels that have entered, particularly from foreign countries, again, aren't bringing in things that are illegal or doing things that are against our laws. Seventh mission is search and rescue. This is the traditional or core portion of what the Coast Guard has been since its inception. This is 2022 statistics, lives assisted, search and rescues. Cruise ship evacuations, another piece of the Coast Guard going out and taking people off cruise ships if they become seriously ill, and saving an awful lot of money in property. Aids to navigation. So any navigable waterway has buoys and other devices that assure that captains or operators of those vessels don't run aground or come into contact with, things that would certainly impair their ability to continue to float. So the Coast Guard actually maintains over 46,000 buoys throughout that territory that you saw on one of those earlier slides, and also responded to a significant number of aids to navigation discrepancies. So if a light goes out on a buoy, Coast Guard has to go out and fix it. If a storm or a vessel hitting it moves a buoy, Coast Guard must go out, get it back in its position, so that, again, folks who are out navigating the waters can use those buoys to make sure that they're in safe water. Living marine resources. So this is all about fishing and protecting our fishing industry. Coast Guard's significant effort in issuing violations and responding to reports of stranded and distressed animals. So whales get caught matter of fact, recently in a trap. Coast Guard goes out to help make sure that whale is released and allowed to go off and do what whales do. Marine environmental protection. This is a newer portion of the Coast Guard's responsibilities, but it is involved in investigating pollution incidents, deploying people and managing people who are trying to clean up any incidents that have occurred, and managing the cleanup of a large number of federal projects that are close to waterways. Ice operations, got a big icebreaker, spends its time up north and up south through parts of the year, making sure that the waterways are clear and vessels can move through them. So on average, large number of statistics. Again, I could probably go 2 or 3 pages of statistics. I don't want to bore everyone, but Coast Guard's pretty active on every day, doing lots and lots of things to protect us, protect the nation, protect our revenue and movement of goods. So it does it with its resources, its people, its units, its assets. So we'll talk about what those are. So 41,000 active duty, about 7,000 reserve, 8,600 civilian, and 26,000 auxiliary members, which I'm now part of. Lots of cutters, anywhere from 420 feet down to buoy tenders and tugs that are closer to 65 or 70 feet. Aircraft, so fixed wing and helicopter. So it's been, again, a major portion of the Coast Guard activities for quite some time. Lots of TV shows about, and movies, a few movies about some of what goes on with the help of some of their aircraft. Then there's the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and it is the force multiplier. So you've had those 41,000 Coast Guard active duty folks, and then you have these 26,000 volunteers like myself who help the Coast Guard do its job. Primary responsibility is recreational boating safety. We teach classes here in New Jersey so that you can get your boating license. But we also provide trained crews and facilities to augment the Coast Guard. So we'll actually go to stations and perform radio watch standing, or help them repair or fix engines, or go out on ships to do culinary work or other things that the Coast Guard needs help in order to support its mission. So I'm going to give you a little video here shortly about the auxiliary, and I'll be quiet while we play.
The auxiliary is a great way for people to give back to the community, give back to the services as well. We're volunteers, but we make a difference. We help out the active side in augmenting their forces, and we get to do jobs side by side with them and help them out.
played a lot of support roles, from the aux chef program in the galley to comms watchstander in the watch room. And then they're also a great asset for helping us train for our mission. Going out there to do as a safety platform, and also giving us a different type of platform to train on and learn how to tow boats.
I would say there are so many opportunities within the Coast Guard Auxiliary to assist the Coast Guard. It's a volunteer organization, and we can do so many things aside from our contributions because we have such a wide, diverse background.
The aux chef program's great. I mean, I've seen some magnificent food come from the auxiliary, some replica cakes of Coast Guard vessels, and then also just the quality of food is great. Every person that puts on the auxiliary uniform, is there to support the Coast Guard. And I think that's part of our strength is having the auxiliary force.
I say look into the different types of job opportunities, career opportunities that are available, and then choose wisely.
Other service organizations may offer you some interesting things to do, but the Coast Guard Auxiliary offers you possibly the most. But if you want to examine vessels, it's to make sure that they have the right safety equipment. If you want to train people on how to be safe when they're out on their boats or their kayaks, if you want to be on a vessel and go out and make sure people are safe on the water, this is the organization for you.
Really appreciate what they do on a day-to-day basis. They are a force multiplier for the Coast Guard, whether it be aviation or surface side. I think the auxiliary is going to continue to grow. I don't think the Coast Guard can do what we do without the auxiliary.
So as you can see from the lengthy video, there's an awful lot of fun things that the Coast Guard and Coast Guard Auxiliary gets to do, some of which may align fairly well with what you may as students be pursuing as your education and your thoughts about your eventual career. We're always looking for volunteers. You can join the Coast Guard Auxiliary at 16. If you're affiliated with the Boy Scouts, there is a Sea Scout troop that we're affiliated with that allows you to begin your efforts and your work with us and your training at 12. So again, large opportunity. We get the same training in the auxiliary that the Coast Guard gets. And as you saw, lots of different things that you could potentially go ahead and pursue in the Coast Guard or Coast Guard Auxiliary. So I want to thank you for your time and for being here to honor veterans today on this important day. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you for that. I was familiar with the Coast Guard, but that gave me so much more insight in everything that goes into the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary. So thank you, Flotilla Commander Roth, for that insightful overview. And now, Trustee LaCitra, please return to the podium to share a special announcement.
You know, when I arrived on campus 12 years ago to assume the position of trustee, I always had the idea that Morris County, that we shall be the hub. Morris County College of Morris shall be the hub of, and anything that's going on in the county, we want to be part of it. And then when Dr. Tony, and I say that with all due respect, it's Dr. Iacona, but when Dr. Tony came on campus 8 years ago, he shared that same dream with me. And I think we are becoming more and more the hub of Morris County. If it happens in Morris County, we want it to happen here. And we make a welcome, we open up the welcome mat. I was surprised when Dr. Tony and I shared the same ideas about veterans. I established a Veterans Committee about 8 or 9 years ago on campus. But Dr. Tony took it a little further. And we got a few veterans together, and I'm amazed because I've been on a lot of state commissions. I've been working at the state for a long time, and I'm amazed how things take so slowly to get together. This was done. You get a few veterans in the room that have a purpose in mind, and you know, and they go in the same direction. This thing came together in about 3 or 4 months, where we're ready to announce that we're going to have a veteran center on our campus. I have the pleasure of announcing it's going to be in February. We're going to service families. We're going to have there to socialize. We're going to have veterans, especially veterans at CCM. They're going to have meetings there. We're going to hopefully have a state veteran service officer. We're going to have private rooms. We're going to have just social, or we're going to give information out. So with that, I want to thank Dr. Iacona for his work and putting this together, and all the groups that we have. We have about 40 people coming to our meetings now. We both have a steering committee, and we have a regular committee. We meet once every 2 months. But I want to thank Dr. Iacona, his staff, and for the veterans, and I am one. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I thank you, and I would like to announce that in February we will have a veteran center on our campus at CCM.
Thank you, Trustee LaCitra. This envisioned project, long in the making, has finally come to fruition because of the passion and efforts of many. It is time to have a Veterans Center at County College of Morris so that our students, staff, community veterans, and their family can be provided with well-deserved support and resources. We will look forward to a formal ribbon-cutting ceremony in the new year. It is now my privilege and honor to introduce today's keynote speaker, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander D. Burgos, United States Army Garrison Picatinny Arsenal.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Before I go on my prepared comments, I want to just state a couple things. First, I don't have any cool videos. But if you go on Google, I'm pretty sure you can find some really cool arming videos there. So just Google it. Second is that I think that we might have to have an argument on who's the first service, but we'll work through that. That's always been a contentious issue between all services, even with the Marines. If there's any Marine vets out there, I apologize. But absolutely, I appreciate and thank Dr. or Tony and just the CCM leadership. Thank you, CCM leaders, community leaders that are here, especially the veteran community that I see out there, as we celebrate Veterans Day and recognize all who have served our nation with honor and distinction here at this beautiful and constantly innovative CCM campus. Veterans have earned our undying gratitude, and the American people must never forget their sacrifices. It's an honor to be here today with these great Americans and with CCM, as it continues to amaze me how much CCM leadership and the community leadership remains committed to do whatever they can to support our veterans and improve the educational programs they provide, not only for the community, but for our veterans and their dependents. And as you stated, sir, I believe that CCM will become the center of gravity for our veterans here at Morris County, and I can see that from what they're doing. Today is a reminder that the Army's people is its greatest strength, and taking care of them and ensuring that they are ready to fight and win our nation's wars are our top priority. Prospective soldiers observe how we take care of our soldiers and our veterans as they consider serving themselves. An example are events like this here at CCM, that CCM has been holding to understand, create, and improve services for our veterans and their dependents through their educational programs. The Army is committed to the success of our soldiers from pre-enlistment to post-separation. In fact, about half of the Department of the Army's civilian force is made up of Army veterans. In Picatinny Arsenal alone, half of veterans make up half of the workforce. Picatinny Arsenal continues to be the leading edge of innovation and lethality for our warfighters because of our veteran workforce. Duty to our country is a prime reason people want to serve the Army or any military service. But the Army is also a good career and can help build the skills for post-employment. Soldiers are a diverse set of professionals who have unique skills and experiences, making them an invaluable contributor to their organizations and community once they're done with service. Despite all this, only 1% of the nation serves the military, and 61% of those who have served are more likely to have been exposed to the military through their family or friends. Like myself, I'm an Army brat. I am one with a long military history of duty dating back to World War II. It's an indicator that veterans have the first-hand knowledge of the benefits of a military career and can bridge this gap between those who are familiar with the military life and those who have never considered being in the military. If you are a veteran, I encourage and challenge you to share the positive stories about your service this Veterans Day or any day when you have someone's ear. Veterans' stories connect Americans with the value of the Army and service and inspire the next generation to serve. You, the veteran, hold the keys to influence others to don the uniform and become the proud 1%. For nearly a century, we have observed Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended the fighting at the Western Front in World War I in November 11, 1918. While Memorial Day is a time to remember those who have died died in service of their country, Veterans Day is a time to remember all those who have served past and present for this great country. It's an honor. It is to honor them for a service not many are willing to take, which, as we all know, comes with many different sacrifices. Many of our surviving veterans are members of what is called the all-volunteer force. For those unfamiliar with the military, we're not saying that it's all volunteer force and they're not getting paid. What we mean is that these soldiers chose to serve. It's important to emphasize this. We chose to sign the dotted line to defend our nation. In the Army, you earn a paycheck and countless other valuable financial and educational benefits. As an example, I'm very grateful for the medical benefits that my family has for my wife and my 3 kids, knowing that they'll be taken care of. And then we have had remarkable travel all over the world and have made memorable experiences because of the travel. More than that, the Army sets the conditions for being a part of a close-knit community held together by lifelong bonds with fellow soldiers and veterans and a career path that has no limits. You can be all you can be in the Army. And the strength of our force is reflected on the quality and professionalism of our people in uniform even when they take off the uniform. You know and you can sense the professionalism and honor and duty they have for not only what they've done, but for what this country holds. This year, we mark the 50th anniversary of the all-volunteer force. If you are a veteran who has served your country, I want to personally thank you for the commitment to keeping our country safe and being part of the best Army in the world. In the Army, we know our greatest asset is our people. Our all-volunteer Army is a credit to the Americans of all races, genders, and creeds, and our common commitment to defense of and love for our country that binds us and unites us together. That goes to the heart of what it means to be an American. As a nation, we must ensure that the service and sacrifice of our veterans is never overlooked or forgotten. The Army believes that every soldier is a soldier for life and is committed to removing the barriers to their success both in and out of the Army. In the United States, we have about 18 million veterans who have served, about 7% of the adult population. Their service spans World War II to our latest conflicts in the Middle East. On Veteran Day, we honor the brave men and women from all walks of life who have stepped forward to defend our nation throughout our history. The U.S. now has the largest population of young veterans since the Vietnam War. We owe it to these men and women to make sure they transition from active duty careers with skills and experiences to find meaningful employment, something you see here at CCM, as they support veterans and ensure they get the skills and education to find meaningful employment. Regardless of the military branch in which our veterans have served, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, even Space Force, today belongs to them. Generations of patriots have dedicated themselves to the defense of our country to make us stronger and more resilient as a nation. Soldiers live by the Army values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. They do not leave behind these values or skills when they transition to civilian life. Maintaining a lifelong identification to the Army, Army soldiers are not former soldiers, they are soldiers for life and are qualified and should be the advocates to connect us to the public and continue to tell the Army story or any military story. Right now, all around the country are soldiers for life. Veterans from all other services are teachers, doctors, engineers, social workers, community leaders, first responders, and elected officials. They continue to serve our communities by making positive contributions, building stronger futures, and inspiring our generations. Our nation's veterans throughout history have kept us safe, returned home, and continue to serve our nation in a multitude of ways to make this nation great. Today, we say thanks to all of them. Thank you for inviting me today, and to our veterans, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Burgos, for those powerful words, thoughts, and reflections, reminding us the importance of today's event. Today, we celebrate the 69th Veterans Day. Though I am not a veteran myself, I have had the privilege of knowing many firsthand, both in my family and personal life, as well as working with veterans throughout my professional career. To the veterans who are here today, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all your sacrifice, your dedication, and your selflessness. For all that you have given to us in this room, this institution, community, and country, we give you a sincere thank you. With the many different ways our veterans serve our country, we thank you and pay tribute to all those who have and are currently fighting for our freedom, continuing to risk themselves for the betterment of our country. To all veterans and service members, if you are able, please now stand to be recognized. Thank you. Once again, the CCM choir will provide us with a musical tribute to our military.
Thank you. What an honor to honor our veterans. Just truly, truly a wonderful day, and in the month of Thanksgiving on top of it, for what could we possibly be more thankful for than our veteran students? You can sit down, that's okay. Is that okay, Professor Mammon? I don't want to override, so okay. Sometimes people think presidents have the last word. We don't, and I won't be getting it today either. You'll hear from Dean Panic. But I do want to say, for our guests who will be joining us upstairs for reception afterward, you're going to see some artwork and thank you letters. And Emerson Crooks asked me some time ago, do they still teach about us in schools? And the answer is yes, they most certainly do. I shared that with my wife, and she said, I do lessons with my students. And last year, those kindergartners made artwork and notes of appreciations as part of learning about veterans, not just a critically important part of our past, but an essential part of our future also. And you can see some of the veterans who are here, and you've heard some of the remarks from Trustee LaCitra, who is a veteran himself, about we build this with our veterans, not just for them, but actually with them. They are great, great community leaders as well. So you'll see that from those children. They will have an opportunity to watch this ceremony as well. We think it's important that they do learn about and learn how to honor, respect, and appreciate from a very young age also. With that, I do want to simply say thank you to our veterans. Thank you for what you have given us, not just yesterday, but today and tomorrow. Thank you to our active duty military personnel who are here today as well. To those who are in-house here every day, Trustee LaCitra, thank you for your service. I saw Mr. Frank Mezel, who was here earlier and had a lot to do with some of our veterans in planning today's ceremony. Thank you for the opportunity to honor you as well. And I would be remiss, because I know my dad, who is a U.S. Air Force veteran, is watching, if I didn't say thank you, Dad, for your service as well.
Today is a day where we stop and acknowledge all those who served our country and brought us our freedom. But today is just the beginning. I encourage you to do 3 things. Give thanks. Take time to acknowledge and say thank you throughout the year, not just one day. To all those who have given us the ability to feel safer every day. Listen. Listen to the stories and insight of those who sacrificed so much. And ask how. How can we provide support to those who have supported us? It is also important to take a moment to acknowledge with gratitude just what Deputy Christine Myers said to the family members who have sacrificed and supported our veterans and service members as they protect our freedom. So let's take a moment to acknowledge them. Thank you all for attending this very important tribute. We now invite veterans, service members, family members, and invited guests upstairs in the Davidson rooms for an appreciation lunch. Thank you all for being here today.